Holy cow, it's time for another Sacred Cow Barbecue. Grab a plate if you're hungry for some truth. We're here to free our minds from our collective BS, our belief systems programmed into us through a lifetime of indoctrination by school, church, and media. No subjects off limits. Why? Because it's all connected. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to another Sacred Cow Barbecue. It looks like I missed my cue there. Gosh, my boy, oh boy, I'm so sorry. This is Patricia Aiken, an average host, well, below average right now, who has exceptional guests. And it's been quite the week in Bolshevik America. We're going to be getting you up to speed on what's been going on in the kangaroo courts up in Montana this week and in Oregon. So we'll be catching you up on that in the second hour. But right now, it's my pleasure to welcome the leader of Texans Against Terrorism and Tyranny. That's Jeff Staggs. Jeff, welcome to the barbecue.
Well, thank you for having me, Patricia. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great considering I got for the condition I'm in good shape. So Jeff, tell us. I'm going to let you introduce you since you know more what's going on with your organization. Tell us about that for a couple minutes.
Well, we are a hybrid grassroots organization that is part biker, part militia, part activist. And the organization that actually is behind all of this is a little group called Texas Tactical Patriots. We're kind of, like I said, a hybrid. Our public face that we use is the Texans Against Terrorism and Tyranny. We have a public Facebook page there and a couple other pages that kind of go along with that. We are a group of people who are organized to attract ordinary citizens that are patriot-minded veterans and citizens who believe in the U.S. Constitution, who believe in the Bill of Rights, who believe in the rule of law, and are coming together because they've got to a point where they've had enough. And we're trying to stand up to both federal tyranny and terrorism, which may have the same source. That's arguable.
But we're trying to stand up. I agree with that.
We're trying to stand up to those in intelligent ways, as opposed to giving the media the high ground to call us rednecks and idiots. So we're trying to do this in a balanced way as much as possible, and in a way that brings honor to patriots and attracts higher and higher level people to come out with us. That's us in a nutshell.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. We'll get back to what you're doing with that. But how'd you wake up? Like, are you Texan born and raised? Who are your mom and dad? When did you decide that the white picket fence had turned into a barbed wire?
Well, the short version, I am a Texas guy. I did go in the Navy. I served in the Navy. I was part of the submarine force. My job was sonar on board submarines. So I did serve our country. And then I came home and began to have a family. We ended up having 6 kids. So we have the last 2 now are about to go in. One's going in the Navy. One's going to be in the Marines. What woke me up is an unusual set of circumstances. I began noticing, the kids that got shot because they were recruiters. Fort Hood. I began noticing certain things that I had not been paying attention to earlier in life as much as I had been. And then France happened, or the Charlie Hebdo.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, in our little area, there was a group of what I'd like to call weekend social bikers that put together a really pretty little ride that everybody wanted to go do. It was called To Paris with Love, because there's a little place called Paris, Texas, and they rode from Dallas-Fort Worth to Paris. And I was thinking it ought to be a little edgier than that. It needs to be a little bit more than cute. And so that's probably what my motivating factor was to finally get started. Was
so
I thought it was time.
You're new to the Bolshevik Party, then?
I am very new to the Bolshevik Party, to be honest with you, or whatever party. I'm saying yes to the Bolshevik Party, and I might want to hold back a bit there. I'm new to the business of making a public stand for liberty. And
what I mean by late to the party is late to understanding that we're living in Stalin-esque America, that that things are not as we've been told. It's not land of the free, home of the brave anymore. It's land of the free and home of the slave. And so this is kind of you're the kind of folks that I'm delighted to see, coming into the patriot movement. Awesome.
Well, thank you. It's better late than never, I suppose.
Well, the more they squeeze us, I think the more people wake up. The worse it gets. The more obvious it gets.
Well, I tell you, I've been on both the East Coast and the West Coast, and I liken what's happening right now to kind of like a big wave. And I think we're about to have a large wave of people who begin to wake up at this point in time for a wide variety of reasons. But I do think that there's a wave of people who are going from completely apathetic to beginning to observe, to beginning to be upset, to beginning to understand who's at the root of it, to beginning to get ready to do something. And I think that wave is piling up now. I just hope it isn't too late.
Yeah, the tsunami, exactly. Well, we're all in this together. So who are your mom and dad? You don't sound like a Texan, Jeff. I'm a little disappointed in that.
Sweet. Darling, I can if you want me to, okay?
That's better.
My dad was a pretty high-end insurance guy. Started a company and took it up all the way up to the stock market. And I learned through him that dialect is important from time to time. And it works both ways. When you are with, I'm a Camille, okay? I'm an honest to God. We had quarter horses and we raised cows and chickens. So I'm an honest Texan, but at the same time, I can lay it on or I can take it off as need be.
That's right. I used to have a friend. He was an instructor when I went through flight attendant training in Dallas. And it was funny because he was born in Texas, raised in Texas, but they lived in Chicago for a while. And so he would sound like a Yankee up until 11 o'clock. We were the night shift in that training. And at 11 o'clock, his Texan would come on. And I go, oh, here's the Texan now.
There he is.
When he got tired, he couldn't do the Yankee thing anymore.
Well, it's there's no place like Texas, I'll be honest with you. And I think Texas may be one of the first states that is ready to break away from the federal tyranny that has been happening. There are many movements in Texas that are very mature. I'm very, very late to the party, and I'm cognizant of that. And I'm trying my best to make sure that we don't bring any embarrassment or cause them any room for stumble. But there are some very mature organizations in Texas, like the Texas National Movement, the Texas Republic, several organizations, Freedom Texas and others, that are moving the ball forward. And what we're trying to do now is find a way to get 10,000 people to gather on the Texas Capitol grounds. Having 1,000, having 2,000 isn't enough. We need to have a massive amount of people come out and say, we are ready to support you to restore the republic. We want to empower our politicians to do what they may already have on their mind, but may not think they have the mass with them. We're trying to put the masses together to unite them. And until we get to a certain number, some of the big boys are going to watch and not be too attached, but some of them will come in once the numbers are around. And I'm not trying to be this organization's spiritual leader or political leader. I'm just a voice in the desert saying, hey, y'all, let's get together. The problems we have with each other is less than the problems we have with this federal government. Up on the Red River, there's 90,000 acres the Bureau of Land Management is trying to take away from us.
Let's hold off. I got a couple more questions for you about that protest that you want to do at the state capitol. Last week my guest was a man by the name of Dr. Stan Bond. He's running for assembly here. He's really, really bright guy, has 3 PhDs and stuff. And And his when I asked him, I put out a meme about what's after Brexit, and there was a bunch of really cute ones like Departure Gal and things like that. And so he came back and he said to me, Texit and Nexit, have Texas and Nevada leave the union. So that's what we call it. So do you think, I see when there's stuff going on with the BLM and stuff in Texas, that the governor of Texas seems to take a stand, make some private, public statements about it. But is he doing anything? Does he have the backbone to stand behind this?
Well, that's my concern, because I see a pattern. The pattern he took with the Syrian refugees is exactly the same. He took a stand saying we will not allow any more Syrian refugees into Texas. Well, he's the guy that's paying these organizations, and I'm going to name them, the Catholic diocese, the Episcopalian diocese, and the Lutheran organizations for their charity organizations, and they're paying them $2,600 a head. Now, the Texas law has it to where they have to get as much money. It's written in their law. They have to get as much money from the federal government as they can and disperse it to faith-based organizations for the purpose of resettling refugees.
Yeah.
So while he's saying out of one side of his mouth, no more, he's writing a check with the other side. So my concern with our governor is that he's a great lawyer that likes the headlines and likes to go to court, but dadgum, if he loses, boys, we tried, we'll get them next time. And here's the thing. There are many, many patriots who are prepared to protect and defend that private property. That property has been, those property rights were settled between a guy named Sam Houston and Santa Ana. It had nothing to do with the colonies.
Okay, let's talk. We'll talk about that for a second. I really think the problem that I see with politicians, I think politics, poly means many, and ticks are blood-sucking creatures. And I see this as a problem. I don't think any lawyer should, ever be in office. That was a big mistake when they changed that amendment that barred them from holding office. I think I'm right on that, but I'm not going to swear to it. But here's the situation. And we've seen this, I see this happen in South Africa, that the government was saying all the right things and then going behind closed doors and making deals that sold out the Afrikaners. It was absolutely amazing. And we see that today. We see saying all the right things, to whatever it takes to get elected. Not that, Diebold doesn't elect who it wants, but I don't have a whole lot of faith for people. I think you've pegged this guy right, that he likes the headlines, he likes the limelight, but behind your back, he's screwing Texans.
I would agree completely, and it's not just him.
No,
there are many people. We've got a little guy by the name of George P. Bush, Jeb's boy, who is the land commissioner for Texas, and he sold out the sisters who have been protecting and taking care of the Alamo for hundreds of years. And he sold it to the UN. They're now protecting the Alamo, the United Nations, and their little blue hats.
So what do you mean? There were sisters? Do you mean like nuns?
There was a little organization, the Sisters of, I'm going to butcher it. I don't know. It was a historical organization called the Sisters of Texas or something like that.
Okay, like the Daughters of the Republic or something like that. Okay, got it.
Very, very much so. Mm-hmm. And they are no longer in charge of it because of a deal that George P. Bush has done. And he's also taken some liberties. Mind you, little Georgie lives in Florida, but he's a Texas land commissioner. And the whole thing just seems to be dirty everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I see.
So what makes you think that Texas has the willpower, when you have these kind of scoundrels in office, to leave the union?
You're actually going to ask that question. Bless your heart. You ever been to Texas?
Yeah, I have. I used to be a Braniff girl 50 pounds ago.
Oh, absolutely. Over in left field.
That's no. That I was at DFW. I was in the Halston uniforms, not the Poochies.
Okay, well, there you go. Either way, that was back when flying was flying and it wasn't a bus trip.
Oh, exactly.
The uniforms, and it meant something to be on an airplane back in those days.
Yeah, we had a chef that
quit,
ran the catering department. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, and we'll quit dating ourselves here. Well, I'll tell you what. I believe, in all my heart of hearts, that the will of the people is being diluted, and that, like the sands in an hourglass, we have to move before we lose it through importing, by leaving our borders wide open, by the importation of many, 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 many blue people into a red state. Texas is becoming a state that's harder to find souls that are willing to go defend their neighbor.
Yeah.
But it's in our blood. It's in our DNA to be a bit more of a rebel than, maybe Massachusetts. Not to pick on Mass. It's a beautiful place. But Texas is born of independence.
That's where I'm from originally, Jeff. I call it Marxistus.
Well, there you go.
I call it Marxistus.
Yeah. Texas is born of independence, and we've always believed in, right or wrong, and people can argue this, that we still have the right to secede from the United States.
Yeah.
And there are, when I was a kid, they still taught Texas history in Texas schools. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are people of my ilk, of my age, and let's say late 40s to late 60s, who know that our children and our grandchildren will not fight this fight, and it's been left to us. So when I say there's people prepared to actually defend land, I mean that in a very military way. There's a lot.
I just want to tell you that the Declaration of Independence is Massachusetts has a history of liberty.
Yep.
Paul Revere, John Hancock, all that. Massachusetts.
The original patriots.
The original patriots. Now, we've been taken over by Marxists just like the rest of the country. So I just wanted to defend Massachusetts there for a minute, just because I had to. But I think that's true, Jeff. And so let's get into the land issue. Let's talk about a little bit. We're going to talk about the rights to secede, but I wanted you to fill folks in on what's going on in the Red River Valley.
Okay. For some reason, we're going to keep this simple, okay?
Okay.
The federal government, through some Supreme Court decision, believes that they have the right to claim the land from the middle of the river to the river bank. And what they have done is they've expanded that now to where the historical bank may have been. And what this turns into is along a 116-mile stretch of the Red River, over 3 counties. They are now claiming 90,000 acres from 172 families. Some of these families have had that property deeded and been paying taxes on that property as their property for over 100 years. In some cases, some of these farmers are actually losing their homes to this. So the Federal Bureau of Land Management, or Bureau of Land Management, has now tied them up in court. Well,
yeah, let's just call them who they are: the Bureau of Land Mismanagement.
Yeah, they are.
They're horrible.
Right. Well, our stance in Texas is they have no right in Texas. Period. We have our own land commissioner. We don't use their land commissioner. We're not granted. But this is not Oklahoma. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to put that.
Yeah, Nevada, 83% of the land, the feds think that they control it. It's completely unconstitutional. But we're not under the Constitution anymore. We're under the 14th Amendment. We've been talking about that, and the Reconstruction Acts of 1867. But Texas is differently poised in this situation. So tell us the history of Texas a little bit and the Republic of Texas.
Well, and you go back to Sam Houston. You go to the Alamo. We talked about it briefly.
Yep.
Everybody's heard of this, the Battle of the Alamo. Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone. These men fought to the death with a superior force. Santa Anna, and it was Texas was part of Mexico at the time. Mm-hmm. And these people from all over the United States, Tennessee, Texas, Missouri, came together to battle Santa Anna and his army. for Texas to gain Texas's independence. And that's exactly what happened. After the Alamo happened, Santa Anna had to chase Sam Houston for a period of 7 to 9 months. They played rope-a-dope with him before Muhammad Ali ever heard of it. They made him follow him until they got him where they wanted him, and they were tired, and they turned and attacked. And there was about 800 men with Sam Houston, and they attacked a superior force of 3 times that size and destroyed it until they got Santa Anna in a position where he had to sign the Treaty of Texas's independence. This was not an independence of a state that was being annexed or colonized. This was Texas as its own nation.
Right.
The Republic of Texas was formed.
All the states was set up as sovereign nations.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not all of them had to have a war with Santa Anna, but be that as it may, for some reason, as Texans, we cling to the idea that our land is not under the jurisdiction of the federal government. And I think we're one of the only states, I believe this to be true, that has its own land commissioner.
That lives in Florida.
Currently. Well said.
I see a problem here, but all right.
Yeah.
And so,
well, he needed a job.
And it's because the United States thinks that they control all the navigable waters now, or any of the waters. Is this what I'm getting?
Well, we had one man who fought for 30 years to get his land back, and you know what? They let him have it back after 30 years, but he had to pay for it, and he got back everything except for his water rights and the mineral rights. It just so happens that it is very rich oil land up there called the Burt Burnett. And there's oil that is being tapped out of the ground quite regularly up there. And so maybe they're after the mineral rights and the water rights to be able to control downstream what's going on.
Yeah, but what good is having land if you don't have the water rights to go with it? If you're a rancher or something, you need water rights. The water rights and land rights go together.
Well, it's a way to control, isn't it? And that's what the federal government's about. I kind of think of the feds like a junkie with its own press, money press.
Yeah. That is a really apt analogy. They should have quit in the 60s when they had happy slaves. But no, enough is not part of their vocabulary. No. The fix, the high, has got to be maintained, and damn the torpedoes. So it's about control. There's no way around it. And they're not having this problem in Oklahoma. And the reason why is on the other side of the river is Indian reservation, and they don't want to go back down that road. Really?
Yep, that's a fact. We have Native Americans that come across and watch our rallies at a distance because they want to see how the white faces deal with the white faces when it comes to land, because they haven't done so well. And that's a true story.
Well, I know that. You know what? I didn't realize this until about a year ago. Someone informed me, and I looked it up, that Indian reservations are still listed by the federal government as prisoner of war camps.
Yep. It's a funny thing when it says that they're supposed to have a 10 square mile area that's been bequeathed them, for lack of a better word, from Virginia and Maryland. They don't even have their own land. They're supposed to have 10 square miles, according to the little constitution I read. And yet, here they are owning in excess of 70% of the land west of the Rockies at this point.
Yeah.
And taking more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And so
but that's just one of our problems.
To me, we would move to Texas. I know lots of people, you would get lots of patriots in Texas if we thought that we could pull this off, because Texas has enough land mass and enough resources and things that we could say adios to the federal government there pretty easily.
I've been told, or it's been said recently, that we'd be the 9th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
On our own. So we actually lose money. We actually
Yeah.
lose money to the federal government every year.
Right. Absolutely. So
Yep.
well, that's exciting. So what's going on? Is this protest? When's the protest again? September what?
Well, we've got two things that we're doing. We do one up on the Red River, and we're trying to draw people out, and we're starting to get some commissioners and some state representatives to pay attention to the rallies we're doing up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing one every 60 days up there. Just let the BLM know that we still see you. We're still here. We're not going to forget about what you're doing. We're not going to sleep. And to let our neighbors up there know that we're still here to support you. So we do that one. And we're doing a really large one. We're trying to do a really large one. Let's make this clear. We're trying to put 10,000 people on the lawn of the Texas State Capitol on September the 3rd. And the way that we're doing that is we are asking for these different leaders of these large organizations to come out and speak so that people will come. Their own people will come. So we have some people that you're going to recognize. We have Chalice Finicum. She's coming to speak. We have the founder of the Liberty Pledge, Ernest Lee, coming to speak. We have a gentleman who is an Army officer, a captain, who wrote a book called We Defy, named Tommy Attaway, is coming to speak. We have a libertarian candidate for 2018 governor for Texas, Timothy Frazier, coming. The founder of Overpasses for America is coming. A couple of activists, Doc Green and Stephanie Augustine. We have the president of the Republic of Texas, John Jarnicki, coming. Crystal Lee Larimore, she's the publisher of a magazine called The Damn Good Times. And then we have two people coming from the Texas Patriots First Secession are coming out to talk too. So we're just trying to cherry pick and get the very best so that the most numbers will come out to the event.
Yeah,
we're going to have live music.
Cool.
We got a band that's coming. We're going to have a professional PA system coming. I have possibly a couple of state representatives that are coming to that at this point.
Yeah, Jeff, I would recommend, if you could put it together and fit it in, that you have the movie Vaxxed shown at your event. It's a movie that shows it's about a whistleblower named Dr. William Thompson and how they they shredded evidence that vaccines were damaging children and causing autism. I mean, it's a great movie, and it would be really good to show. If you have a big group, that will bring people in as well as the people that are already there. And I'd be happy to network you with those people a little bit if you wanted to bring that in.
Be happy to, because we had someone. Let me tell you a story. You heard of Chuck Norris, Walker,
Yes.
Texas Ranger.
Yes.
His son Mike, put together a Hollywood movie, first-class Hollywood movie called Amerigeddon.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie is about patriots that have to come together after a intentional EMP.
Right.
It shuts down. Okay. Mike has had very bad things happen to him recently, and he's no longer safe in public.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Yes, I know that, but actually, yeah, it's a tremendous thing.
Yeah.
So do you think the fact that the Bundys are behind bars right now and their supporters and in the Oregon case and here in the Nevada standoff, is that cooling Texas ardor over showing up and standing up against the BLM?
I'd like to answer that in the affirmative, but I think people here are still sleepwalking. The people become so selfish that if it doesn't affect them, if they don't see it at Starbucks, I don't know that they care. And I hate saying that about people.
Well, I'm sorry, it's true, and I call it also with the people that are awake. I feel like we have the autism patriot spectrum disorder. There's people on one end that are like the Fox News patriots and thinks that Fox News is conservative. And, then there's people a little further up that believe Alex Jones. And there's people a little further up that, know this and know, and then we got, people that want to secede from the Union and all that and restore state sovereignty. So it's a patriot spectrum disorder. And I loved what you said at the beginning of the show, to put our differences aside. And that's exactly what the government does, or the forces behind the government do, to divide and conquer. They do not want us to have unity. And our people, whites in particular, we're knuckleheaded enough that we will argue over anything. We will split hairs over anything. It is a failing in our personalities that we're such individuals that we don't have that collective mindset that the other races have.
Well, I think that some of that's been taught too.
Oh, absolutely. It's been programmed into us.
The everyone gets a trophy mentality is now colliding with what I would call populism. The need, the sheep will find their personality. One of them's talking on TV right now. And if anyone challenges their guy that's not populist or popular, and they stomp you with their little chatty rhetorics, their little chants they get so good at, the whole world's become a chant.
Yes.
And as long as the sheep are happy and they have their cute little chant, they're empowered and they can drown out everybody they want. But the problem is these people that we have, everyone is so right that the other guy is so wrong that they can't be associated with them. And I don't know what it's going to take. I'm afraid what will happen is we'll lose the battle, then everyone will come together. And I've been started to make that point that we can either come together now or at the FEMA camp.
Right. Well, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because are you going to come together as free men, or are you going to come together as people at the FEMA camp?
Right.
And I don't think people get that, but I think that's where this is actually headed. Your thoughts?
I'd love to be able to disagree with you, Jeff, but I really can't. I've been trying to figure this one out for a long time, and I see it. I see they use other races against the white race, but someone in a chat room over at Inside the Eye Live on Saturday, that's Dennis Fetcho's show. That's my guilty pleasure on Saturday mornings, and they said we should say to these other races, help us get our country back, and we will help you get yours back.
Well, isn't that the point of the rule of law? That's the point of the republic. The
Yes.
blind lady with a set of scales. Look, we watched her get executed for Hillary Clinton's sake, and the rule of law has now been destroyed, and we're watching it being destroyed every time they go after cops. The rule of law is dead, and to restore the republic is that equal opportunity for all men. It is color blind. It is social blind. It is economical blind. Justice is supposed to be the blind lady with a set of scales. And that's what the republic is about.
Well, actually, there's no lady with the scales anymore. Like you said, she is dead and buried right now. She needs to be revived. I believe that they can't do this without the court system. The courts, the judiciary is where this is so messed up.
Well, they have been modifying. Well, they just did one right here in Texas yesterday in Texas. It was ruled that our voter ID law was illegal and Texas must rescind it. The upper courts have removed the lower court ruling, and now everyone can vote. It's too much to ask someone to produce an ID. It's not ironic that happened 120 days before a national election.
No.
They are trying to take a red state and turn it blue.
Yeah,
period.
And that's why they're flooding it with immigrants. But, they must... I'm just speechless about all this, Jeff. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot to say. It's like they're going on and on and on. What do you see the answer being? You have an answer?
I don't. I'll tell you what. I wish it wasn't on me and on this generation, but it is.
Yeah, we're the people that let it go. I just want to say something about patriots and about veterans. I know veterans went into the military, most of them some just went for a job or whatever, but a lot of folks went because they thought they were serving their country and defending their country. But it turns out veterans weren't doing that at all. The military today isn't doing that. We are just henchmen for the state of Israel and going around destroying the world. for a Zionist interest, it's terrible. We are the largest organized crime syndicate in the world right now is the U.S. government. And so it's time I hope that veterans will wake up and stop waving the flag and realize that what they did in good conscience, but look back at it and say, I thought I was serving my country and I wasn't. It's time to start serving my country now.
Well,
and the way
veteran,
I can do that
is
okay, go ahead.
I just want to input something. I don't want to challenge the veracity of what you said. I want you to know this about the heart of veterans. Most of us served each other, sweetheart. It was us against whomever we were in front of. And we had to come back together, or we had to take care of each other. This was not about whoever was the commander-in-chief. We weren't political people. We were a warrior class of people, and we ended up serving each other. That's why we're so tight. That's why we stay together. That's why we care for each other to the very bitter end in many cases. And we have a group of kids that have come back that joined for very patriotic reasons. Post 9/11, there were a number of people that went in because they wanted to help defend America. They felt like it was under attack.
Right.
And they wanted to defend our freedoms. So their hearts were in the right positions. How they were used, how they were manipulated, yes, the people who were playing chess moved parts and pieces into bad spots. But that doesn't mean that the parts and pieces were intentionally in that vein, if you understand my meaning.
That's exactly what I'm saying, that these men and women were used as tools, or as Henry Kissinger say, as dumb animals. And in the elite and the Jews have no respect for the military, none. They just use them and abuse them. And you can see that by the type of care that you get from the Veterans Administration. The Veterans Administration is where you go to have another opportunity to give your life for your country. The care is abysmal.
It is. It is. And 22 kids a day are killing themselves.
Right.
And most of them kill themselves after they get turned away from the VA for treatment, or they get told they're going to have to wait 6 months before they can get them in. And you can only self-medicate for so long and be left alone for so long after some of the horrors that these children and young men and young women have seen. And my heart goes out to them 100%.
Exactly. And so we need to wake children up and say serving your country means serving your state, serving the republic, serving, do not serve the federal government. They are not your friend. They are not the friend to the world. And we need to wake people up. I understand, or I've been led to believe, I should say, that there are loyalists within the military, that when something goes bad, that they will step up and defend America. But I believe that they're putting all these foreigners in our military that won't have any compunction about firing on Americans.
Well, I think that those numbers are a bit askew. I can see where some people would be hypersensitive to certain things like that. I was in a very elite service when I was in, that foreign nationals were not even allowed in at the time. And it was before they allowed women in certain positions. And I don't know what all they do now, but I think you'd be surprised by the number of people in the military that come out of very few states. I've heard estimates that Texas itself makes up about 2/3 of the active military.
You're kidding me. Texas makes up 2/3?
I've heard that number. I cannot verify it. So somebody can fact check me and find me wrong. I'm not saying that it's correct. I'm saying I've heard that.
Okay.
I can assure you, I have 2 sons that are going in the service currently. They're signed up and going in.
I'd be very concerned about that because they vaccinate the hell out of them. I mean, the men are dropping like flies from the military now. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, as a parent, you have a couple choices. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm proud of my young men. I'm proud of what they want to do, and I'm proud of that they want to serve. And they have a game plan for afterwards. They're not going to freeload and wait for dad to be able to provide for them. They're going to go stand on their own hind feet and make their own way. So that being said, I can assure you that many, 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 many men in the military, and I know some people that are very, very connected at this point still, will not fire upon U.S. citizens, period. It's an unlawful order. They're not robots.
Well, what they shouldn't be firing on innocent women and children in other countries either. So let's move forward here, because I know we just have a difference of opinion on that, and I respect your feelings on it, but I just feel differently about it, knowing what I see. And I just have two things to say. Pat Tillman.
Yep. Absolutely. I was going to actually bring his name up myself.
What do you want to say about him?
My point about Pat was that he left in an affluent position to go serve, and he felt like it was the right thing to do. For me, I was going to bring him up because of his motivation to serve. That's
right. But then when he got there, he found out what was really going on.
Disillusioned, and I think that's why we're losing 22 kids a day to suicide, because
exactly
what they expect and what they got are two entirely different things, and it's hard to prepare these young people for that disappointment,
right,
as to what they're doing.
We built this up. Okay, if I was a parent, I would not want my child in the military under any circumstances, because of the vaccinations, because of the horrible care they get, because of what's going on, and turning them into robots. And but I know you're proud of your boys, and I wish them the best at that, but I don't think they're defending America. I think they're defending this unlawful government that is masquerading as, the Republic, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we turn the Texas back into Republic, they'll come serve their Texas Republic Army.
Okay, there we go. Well, here's a question about that, because we've talked about that before, friends and I. And so how, my thing is, if the military were to go with us, like if Texans in the military were to serve the Republic of Texas, how would they get paid? How would you be able to control the money? I think they're going to go with their paycheck, and the feds are who's printing the money, and that's who's paying them. So that's the only thing I can't get around.
Texas pays the United States government every year. Like, I think our deficit, the money we give to them and the money we get back, I think we come back like with a $1.2 billion deficit every year from the federal government. Mm-hmm. In other words, if we didn't have to pay the federal government a nickel out of Texas, we'd have an extra $1.2 billion a year. Plus, you take the energy business that we have, and you take the gloves off of it, their money would not be the issue.
Well, that's awesome. And Utah has threatened to throw the feds out and all that, but it seems I don't see that they have the will to do it. I mean, they're worried to have the federal government come in and, fight them on it. How do you feel about that?
Well, I understand that. Texas isn't quite as well part of Texas. Let's put it that way, because I can't speak for everybody in Texas. We have all of them, every type of every person of every ilk. There is a segment of Texas who isn't afraid of anything. Period.
Okay.
And I mean that.
All right. Well, we have to. They have.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to provoke a fight with them. Do not get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But if they cross the line and start taking stuff away from us, we will defend our right. Period.
So, Jeff, we're going to be coming up on a break here in the last 5 minutes. So I've kind of mowed you down on a couple of issues. So I'm going to give you the rest of the time until the music comes up, and then we'll pick up at the break with Billy Hill, who's going to give us a report. And I think you can add some to that conversation if you're willing to stay with us. Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, great. So what do people have to do to get in touch with you for this September 3rd rally?
We have a website. It is T as in Tom, 2 is the number 2, P as in Patriot, -3 as in numeral 3.com. So it's T2P-3.com. 3 is in 3%er.
Okay.
So We have a page dedicated to our event that we call We the People. That's the name of the rally. And we are trying to encourage everyone to reach out to us to help bring more people to that lawn, to be effective and to have the ability to put political pressure on the politicians that we've hired. We think we need 10,000 people on that lawn twice, for this event and the next event. We're planning another event after the November elections.
Okay, and the state capital is where?
State capital is in Austin, Texas.
Okay, I was going to say I thought it was Austin. I was thinking Houston for a minute, but then
No.
I say that's not right. Austin.
No, it's right in the heart of the most liberal place in Texas.
Yeah, it
period.
is. I'm telling you, there's so many entertainers and stuff that live there. It's got to be the Marxist capital of Texas.
It really is. It's got quite a music scene, and there's a lot of respect that comes out of that place in lots of ways. But in many ways, it is also the most liberal place in Texas. There's plenty of pockets of that in lots of places. But overall, I'd have to say that Austin would have to be considered one of the most liberal metroplexes in Texas.
Wow. What about West Texas? I've got friends in West Texas. What are your connections there?
I have friends in West Texas. We have a number of what we call constitutional sheriffs out there that are taking the stand of being friends with proper-minded militia in defense of the Constitution and in defense of their rights in those counties.
Yeah, I've got to see that working sometime. So far, these constitutional sheriffs have been a complete letdown this year anyway. Brad Rogers in Elkhart, Indiana, I respect him. He turned the feds away on a raw milk thing, but so far in this Oregon and Bundy case and stuff, it's been disgusting. So I hope you guys are the real deal.
Well, I think there's several that are flying below the radar on purpose until such time that the feds garner their attention. Then I think you'll see an incredible defense by a few. But it's their purpose, their point is to stay below the radar for as long as they can, as they gain strength and prepare for the battle to come.
Okay.
And I mean that in a very literal sense.
Okay, yeah, I love it. I love it. So I got to ask you, what kind of bike do you ride?
I have a Road King.
Oh, okay, Harley.
Road
Sure.
King.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm a fat old vet, so you won't see me. My days of the Kawasaki Yamaha 25,000 cc job are pretty much done.
You want something comfortable.
But I do. I want something that sounds right. I want something kind of comfortable and something still has what would you call them? Some male appendage. Balls, or I don't know, something like that.
Well, that's all right. Next time I'm in your neck of the woods, I want to ride on that bike. Okay.
Outstanding. It'd be my pleasure to have you on the back of my bike.
Okay. So are you going to have a biker portion to the rally in September?
We are trying to court a particular speaker that can bridge the gap. Just like patriots, bikers are broken into little camps too. Oh. And we are trying to find a voice that can help unify those voices, those different camps. Someone has respect across the spectrum. And in Texas right now, bikers really don't want to come out and be a good little target. You've heard of something called Waco?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah. I'm familiar with Waco. So everybody, we'll be back after the break, everyone. Welcome back to Sacred Cow Barbecue. I'm your host, Patricia Aiken, and it's my pleasure to welcome Jeff Staggs back from the first hour. Jeff, thank you for staying on with us.
Thank you for having me.
And Billy Hill is here. Billy, everybody's still talking about the bear story from last week, and we got more stuff to catch up on with you. But you were in court for yesterday in Missoula. Can you tell us a little bit about that case and why it's such a travesty?
Yeah, it was. I was at the courthouse, and Joe Robertson is 77 years old, and he was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison for digging holes on ground that was arbitrary ownership. It was questionable. Some of the taxes had been paid by somebody else, or she had bought the land at a sheriff's sale, but he had 1 year to redeem it, so he still acted like he was the manager, which legally he was, because at any time he could have paid that money back, and it would have been his property still. But anyway, he got a heavy sentence out of that for digging them holes and just to achieve water supply to furnish his firefighting truck. That was the purpose of digging the holes, and the land that it was on was always in question. That they said was committed was they had to go 1,000 miles downriver to connect up to waters owned by the United States. And they accused him of contaminating waters owned by the United States, which were 1,000 miles away, and one small hole, the sedimentation out of that hole, they said, would contaminate that water 1,000 miles away. And keep in mind, they had no charge against this man until this water run 1,000 miles to reach the waters owned by the United States. Short of that, the United States had no complaint against him, except maybe digging the hole. But anyway, a year and a half in prison I thought was pretty extreme.
That's outrageous.
And then yes, and he had to pay restitution of $129,993.50. He had a lifetime ban on guns, substance abuse treatment.
Yeah, hold on for a minute, Billy. This doesn't sound like a violent criminal. Why would they? He's not any criminal at all. Why ban his firearms?
Maybe from a
because
shovel.
they said that he had said over the telephone or through a communication that if they came up on the hill to get him, there was going to be trouble. And that's all they ever said that he said, was that statement. There might be trouble if they came up there to get him. So they considered him a dangerous person after that.
Oh my God!
Are you still there?
I'm here and I'm in shock.
Yep.
The other thing that shocked me about all of this is I am a veteran being evaluated at present for PTSD, and they used the doctor-client confidentiality of this man, this veteran, confiding with his counselor that he had one time considered suicide, so they labeled him a suicidal threat.
Wow.
They did that with information that they got from the VA counselor, and I was always under the assumption that was counselor-client privilege.
Jeff, you're a veteran.
But it was used.
Hold on, Billy. I want to.
Yes.
Jeff, you're a veteran. Is this outrageous?
It's entirely outrageous. Billy, did they use that to isolate him? Did they use that to make his?
Yes.
They were more punitive because of what they learned that they should never have been told.
Yes, that information, I believe, made the judge hand a more severe sentence also.
Wow.
And I've talked yesterday. I talked yesterday with our Congressman Steve Daines, Veterans Affairs Representative Denny Lenore, and he is a very fine man. Him and I have worked together before, and he was totally flabbergasted that information was revealed and used in such a crude manner as that court used it. I was threatened myself because I don't know exactly what you say in confidence once you're led to believe that it is in confidence, and the next thing you know, it's being used against you in court to get a more severe sentence against you. That makes us veterans kind of clam up and not talk to our counselors.
Well, anything you say in the doctor's office now is no longer confidential. It's right on your patient's time. Jeff, what were you going to say?
Billy, I'm wondering if an attorney might look at that through the HIPAA law and find a way to understand it. Go ahead, buddy.
I agree with you 100%. Instantly, when I heard that, I instantly felt threatened myself by this, and I thought that Joe's privacy had been invaded, that the whole thing was used against him. If he had known that was going to be used against him to get a more severe sentence, I'm sure he would never have even went to the Veterans Affairs counselor.
Well, I just said earlier that the VA is where you have another opportunity to give your life for your country. The treatment is so abysmal.
Yeah, you're right. But another thing, I'm going to read you this, if it's okay, Patricia, the severity of this sentence they gave him.
Go right ahead.
He cannot have alcohol or enter an establishment which serves alcohol after he gets out. After his year and a half, he has 3 years of probation, and these are all probationary conditions. Now, this one here really amazed me. The court ordered that he cannot apply for credit without the approval of the court after he served his time.
What has that got to do with the price of apples in Romania?
It was so irrelevant to dig in a hole that I could not understand that application of that condition at all. It just seemed like it was totally overreach, and it had no place in the sentencing.
Yeah, tyranny. That's insane, Jeff.
How do you survive without credit?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the point. They're trying to destroy him and make an example of him. I'm wondering how a professional juror, a trained judge, can sit there in good conscience and do that to a man of 77 years of age and a veteran. So he was at least a Korean vet, if not a World War II vet. Is that what you're telling me, Billy?
I would agree with that. Yes, I was in Korea myself in '66. I was there 13 years after the war, but it was still kind of a combat zone when I was there. But Joe, 77, would have got there 8 years before me. Yeah, he was there at the tail end of the Korean War, yes.
Yeah. So you took a Korean vet of 77 years old and looked him dead in the eye and made him virtually wear a bracelet for the next 4 years of his life at 77.
The thing that went through my mind, Jeff, was a year and a half in prison and 3 years probation. Now that is, in my calculations, 4.5 years of catering to conditions, and that is like a 10 or a 12-year sentence to a 30-year. 30-year-old.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, these are the golden years, Joe. I hope you're going to enjoy them. So I don't understand what I've read about this so far about the sentencing hearing. Has there been an appeal filed on this?
They notified the court that they were intending to appeal it, and I almost applauded. But here's another condition. He can't deny law enforcement a search of his home, car, or property at any time, day or night. He cannot deny them at any time they want to come to his home for a search of even his sock drawer. For 4.5 years, they got it. He cannot have any form of surveillance at his home, on his property, or in his car, even after he served his year and a half. For another 3 years, he cannot put a camera up on his property. And in addition to that condition, he has to pay immediately $12,000 cash for his public.
Hold on, you broke up there, Billy.
In addition to
you broke up there, Billy. He has to pay $12,000 for what?
He has to pay $12,000 immediately for his public defender.
Wait a minute,
in addition to the $120,000.
Why does he have to pay a public defender?
Because the judge ordered him to. He said you owe the state for the public defender $12,000, and that's due immediately. That's in addition to the $129,000. Yes.
I want to read the Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. That's the Eighth Amendment, folks.
Someone in the chat room just commented that HIPAA does exactly opposite of what they say it does. I don't ever sign anything. When they go in and want me to sign something, I said, no, I never sign anything like that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You're right on. So this man, when he gets out, he's limited to going to McDonald's and Burger King because he can't go into any establishment that serves beer with meals? I believe it says, or he can't even enter an establishment which serves alcohol. He cannot enter that establishment.
Oh my
I wonder
God.
if that would include church for communion.
Yeah. In my opinion, what they did here, Joe being 77 years old, they basically ended his life. He'll never, ever know his life as it was before. If he does survive the time in prison.
So did you talk to him yesterday, Billy?
Before he was sentenced, I did briefly.
Okay, and was he taken immediately into custody?
Immediately. Now, the other thing that happened in that courtroom that I took offense to, the judge ordered one when she laughed, and he said, "Get her out of here." And the bailiff came, and she was gone, and she was a woman with a newspaper. Another gal said something when he imposed a severe sentence, and he told the bailiff, "Just get her out of there, remove her." Now, after those two were thrown out of the courtroom, somebody back there, you couldn't really tell who it was, made a slight little noise. I mean, it was not interrupting anything at all. It was that low, and that prosecuting attorney for the government went off to the judge, and he said, "Your Honor, I wouldn't mind seeing all of these people thrown out of this courtroom." He said, "This bunch came here to support the defendant and give him courage. And in this gallery, we have people that were down at Oregon, of all places, and here they are here." He was trying to connect people in the crowd as criminals Oregon and didn't deserve to be in the courtroom. And he wanted all of us out of there. And I myself was not in Oregon. I wish to God I probably should have been to stand up for an American or two. But I didn't make it down there because of my duties on the ranch. But I was labeled with that crowd as a troublemaker, and I resented that.
Yeah, Americans that stand up to tyranny are now you're an enemies of the state. That's what we are now.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, and I've been in some pretty touchy court cases that I won, where I felt I wasn't rightfully charged over that grizzly bear and things. But this thing yesterday, it seemed very dangerous to me on some of the things they did, like the Constitution wasn't even considered before those statements were made. And just like Jeff said, don't they realize we have an Eighth Amendment? Evidently not. I believe law enforcement anymore, I think the United States is the last thing they put beside the bed at night. I just don't think they ever see it there.
Now, why would anyone want to put a 77-year-old man in prison? I see that he has a service dog. Someone that needs to have a service dog is obviously not in the kind of health that will survive behind bars.
They want to
absolutely.
They want to impose fear on other patriots.
That's right.
They're sending a message
and
across the bow.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeff had it right when he said earlier, they're using him for an example to instill fear in the rest of America.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's what they're doing with the Bundys and this whole situation.
Did I misquote you there, Jeff, or was that close?
You're dead on, brother. And by the way, my rider, I'm a motorcycle guy. My rider name is Bear, so I've got to see this video somewhere down the road. Oh
yeah, you've got to see it. It's over at YouTube, and see the one about his mom too.
Okay, outstanding.
This is crazy. Stripping him of his gun rights, charging him $12,000 in attorney fees. What? I mean, this is just incredible. And not even letting him say goodbye to his wife or reassure his service dog.
Right.
This is not America.
It's not America. You're absolutely right, Patricia.
I seen a little skirmish about the service dog just as they were kind of moving us all out of the courtroom. I seen a little bit of that, but I didn't get to stay long enough to see how that turned out, so I can't testify in that, although I know they tried to deny the dog. I know they did, because there was the skirmish going on when I was leaving.
Oh, my God. And so his defense attorney, did he object to any of this slanderous nonsense that was going on?
He didn't object to 12 grand, I guarantee that much.
You know, the thing that totally amazed me, I was told, be up here for the sentencing and support this poor guy. I knew Joe from before. So I went, and I sit down, and I'm watching the proceedings, and for the first hour, the defense counsel and the judge bantered about the weight of the law under which this man had been convicted, and now they were going to sentence him. And the judge finally said, well, we have a teeter-totter. The Supreme Court, two of them went one way, two went the other way, and I don't really think that this case that we have had a conviction in is settled law at this time. And I thought, he's going to throw this out. Instead,
so they didn't.
He goes
at the end of the and they had no precedent.
Absolutely. And at the end of the first hour of this bantering, finally the judge says, well, enough of that, and picks up his pre-prepared written statements and continues on and it totally left me baffled. If you don't have settled law, aren't you presumed innocent?
Not in Bolshevik America, Billy. I want to know who wrote
the judge's notes.
This is the Star Chamber that's going on here. It's appalling what's happening in these cases. Absolutely appalling.
Well, I want to make it known right here that I am not an attorney, but I like to think I got a little common sense of what I'm hearing. and when that judge said this is not settled law yet because it's so ambiguous, that means you have to err on the side of the citizen of the United States.
That's right. It's void for vagueness.
Yes. It left me totally confused.
And angry. So how did the gallery respond at this time?
It broke up just a second. I didn't hear what responded there.
How did the gallery respond?
It was not pretty. I mean, there was nobody happy. But after them two were evicted, everybody just kind of maintained, and it was pretty somber in the courtroom, and you could see a lot of disappointment, a lot of confusion, and a lot of fear of our government. That government in that courtroom there yesterday instilled fear in America.
Yeah, well, that's what their new job is. That sword that the Lady Liberty was holding with the scales in the other hand is being used now to execute Americans.
But I was always led to believe in a military academy that if your leadership is incompetent, you must turn to fear. And that's where we're at.
Exactly. Well, that's Bolshevik Russia. I mean, and Stalin didn't have it this good, but for a judge to be so outrageous, the defense attorney not doing anything for his client, what has he done for his client over this whole thing? And how long has this travesty been going on? Do you know, Billy? Yeah, it's been good. Well, not exactly, but because I'm kind of new showing up there at that courtroom, but I heard a lot of stuff. I heard that this judge, I know he had retired after he throwed the wolves all over Montana to eat all of our elk up against the popular vote of the people of Montana. But he did that. But then he retired because there was a lot of bad news coming his way there. I ain't going to get into that. But so he retired. Well, then he came back out to finish up with Joe Robertson, who he had a history with. And that seems weird to me. How
once you retired, how can you come back with a tainted bias against somebody to hear a case because it's who it is?
I have no words, Billy. I have no words for this.
That was all over the courtroom that this man had just come back out of retirement to hear this case because of it being Joe Robertson. And he had dealt with some previous cases, and he was aware of Joe Robertson, an old man, that he wanted to hear this case and pronounce sentencing on him.
Boy, what? And you said you knew Joe before this? What kind of a man is he?
I think that you got to be careful in Montana. I have to be careful in Montana. I'll be 70 my next birthday, and I remember when I was free. And sometimes it's easy to still think we are without realizing what you're going to find when you get to court. And I think Joe got caught up in that. I think he still thought that he was the free man that he may have been 20, 30 years ago.
That the law mattered.
That, yes, but myself, I catch myself taking a wood log for my wood stove for winter. And you know, it's right against my property. And the next thing you know, I'm cited into federal court over a wood log that $5. They charge you $5, but they call it a free wood use permit. That only costs you $5, but it's free. But if you go and you do that, not thinking it's right there on your property, the next thing you know, a $5 permit will have you a felon.
Oh my
but
God.
You're expected to go on the national forest and put out forest fires that threaten the public's land because you're a member of the public. But if I could vary just a little bit to make a point, Patricia.
Have your way, Billy. We're listening.
I had a dispute with them over cattle on open range, and I had a girl in Washington, D.C., working with Max Baucus's office, my senator, call for an FBI of the Forest Service for denying me my Montana state constitutional right to open range. And after a short time, the Forest Service responded to the FBI, and their letter said, part of it said, we do not adhere to any state law due to eminent domain. And that just is definitely in contrast with the 10th Amendment of the United States.
Well, you know, when the BLM started having hearings here after the last election, it was 2 years ago now, it was, and they did it, they snuck in a couple of public meetings, right, because everyone was caught up in the election cycle, and then we caught on to them, and they had one at the North Las Vegas Public Library, completely not holding to the state's open meeting laws. And, you know, they came back to us and said, and we filed a grievance against them, and they said, oh, we don't have to follow the state laws. We're federal.
Yeah. Due to eminent domain. Well, what does eminent domain mean? It can only things, and both of them are transfer of ownership, and in this case must have been a transfer of ownership of the public's land, transfer of ownership to the agency.
Right. Well, that's
in other words,
this is what I see happening since, you know, the 14th Amendment and the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, and then the Buck Act. They've all been this progressive tyranny against us, where they've taken away your land rights, and they have this federal overlay over everything that they think they control it all.
It has become clear to me over the years of dealing with the Forest Service here that the fastest way to get them just instantly enraged with you, and you can just see them seethe at you, is to make them aware that the American public owns this land, not the Forest Service, and they will immediately start taking away your privileges right there on the spot.
Well, we got a whole bunch of other men in jail over the same thing right now. But this is unbelievable. Was there any is Missoula with it, because that's where the university is, like the University of Montana, right, Billy?
Yes, very. it's very liberal, very pro-environmentalist attitude.
Right. I was just going to say it's got to be liberal, because Jeff and I were talking last hour about Austin, where the state capital is being so liberal because of the music industry and stuff that runs there. Very liberal.
The college, too.
And, I think I've been to Austin, and I thought it was one of the prettiest cities that I've seen in many, many years.
Just don't look beauty skin deep, Billy.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get a chance to slow down long enough to see the politics.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. It's pretty at a glance.
Well, I'm just disgusted. I'm just disgusted by this. I'm looking at a picture. There look to be about how many people would you say were outside protesting? Looks to be about 40, 50 people.
Yeah, there was close to 50, I'd say.
Okay.
And something else, and I believe that we should note this publicly, because it was done covertly, but in the building across the street, in the second-story window, there was at least cameras sticking out with men behind the cameras up there, and you could see around in the courthouse, in the courtroom, armed guards. I believe there was 8 of them. They just absolutely were ready, if anybody. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if somebody would have jumped up and screamed or something, but they were ready for war.
Yeah, that's well, you know what that tells me? That tells me that they know what they're doing is so wrong that they can't believe that the American people aren't out there with their pitchforks yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It goes back to the judicial too that we talked about. They're way out of control. The judiciary of this country has lost all sense of the Constitution.
Well, I read that last week on my show, Jeff, about how during the 50s, a program called the Longines Chronoscope, where they asked a congressman, isn't it true, that was investigating the Department of Justice, isn't it true that if a totalitarian regime wants to get a foothold in the country, they must first take over the Department of Justice? And he said, oh, yes, and the police. And it went on and on. So this is this has been going on, this communist takeover of our courts since at least the 50s.
Yep.
But it's now it's so blatant and so obvious. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, and so Billy, what do you see? Is there a solution in your mind to any of this?
I've been doing some heavy thinking, and I kind of inadvertently got handed a telephone yesterday. And like I say, this Veterans Administration representative, who was a friend of Joe's, I mean, at least a casual acquaintance at least, and he said I could never be more surprised that, because that man is not a drunk, and here's all these limitations on him about alcohol, and I've never seen him drink. And he said, I just can't believe they gave him a year and a half for that. And he said, what are we going to do to fix it, Bill? And I said, well, I've got one idea, and that is you go to your boss, our senator in Washington, D.C., and you ask him to go on the floor of the Senate and get a friend in the House and ask them both to go to the Department of Agriculture Committee of Congress and ask them for an investigation of the Forest Service and the BLM out west and how they're treating the citizens out here and what is the agenda on this land grab. My past representative, Denny Rehberg, it was publicized that he was confrontational with the EPA, the BLM, and all of them about land grab out here in the West. He was starting it himself. But we need a committee to do an investigation out west, or there's just going to be more dead people.
Well, you know, there's that representative in Arizona named Gossard, Gosar. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. I've only seen it in print. But he grilled Neil Cornsey from the BLM, and Cornsey sat there and lied, told bald-faced lies to him, and he busted on. So in other words, I mean, that these people have no oversight whatsoever. And so, what do you think an investigation? Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
I want to bring up a name, and the name itself right now is controversial. but we've been contacted by his office because apparently he's been watching what we're doing up on the Red River because of the BLM, Bureau of Land Management in this case. But we have a senator who is constitutional based, extremely constitutional based, and a senator from Texas, so that kind of gives you a hint, who is potentially going to actually show up at our next BLM rally.
And what's his name?
Potentially.
Can you share his name? Cruz. Okay.
Yeah, possibly.
State Senator Jeff?
Yes, State Senator Ted Cruz.
State
Senator Ted Cruz.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So I don't know. It's not. Look, I'm assuming that this probably doesn't go out to billions of people, so I'm okay with it. But we've been contacted by his regional director, and he'll be in Texas in August, and they are looking for places to go and things to stand up for. And I was told that he's been watching what we're doing and why we're doing it. So there's a possibility that state senator, who might need to rebuild his name for whatever reasons,
yeah, right.
may
He sure
may
does.
latch onto may want to latch onto something. I think it's arguable whether or not he needs to rebuild his name or not. But at the same point, he would be a really good big brother to have in a fight with the BLM.
Oh, interesting. You know, there's a congressman from Texas, and I'm trying to think of his name. He wrote a letter to the president after the Bundy Ranch, fiasco, and said that the Bundys were completely right and the feds were completely wrong. And I have a copy of that letter, and I should dig it out here, but I can't do it on this computer. I packed up my real computer, and it's in the mail already. So,
we have a guy named Gomer who is strong as nails, and he's done. He's a statesman, and he's done his time, and he's moving on. But Congressman Gomer is probably the man you're thinking of.
No, I don't think that was his name.
Okay,
I'll look it up.
I've seen him before.
Let me look it up. You gentlemen talk for a minute. I'm going to mute and find this because it's kind of interesting. So bring up some more points here, Billy.
Jeff, I know I have a casual knowledge of the man you're talking about. I've seen him on TV a time or two.
You talking about Gomer or Ted Cruz?
Gomer.
Oh yeah, he's something else. He's a really, really good guy. But Billy, while it's just you and me talking, I got to ask you something. There's an awful lot of people putting an awful lot of faith in Donald Trump, and there's an awful lot of promises coming, which is typical for politicians. Do you think if this man actually stands for what he stands for, that there's a chance that some of the stuff can get rolled back a little closer to what the Republic was supposed to be, or is this just another shill in the machine, in your opinion?
I think that he wants to do 8 years, and so I would say yes, he's going to do something. He's got to at least the first 4 if he wants the second 4. So we've got to be fast to get north. Pardon?
I think he's actually been on record about the Bureau of Land Management too. I can't quote it, but I do think he actually made a statement about the Bureau of Land Management. That'd be a nice thing to look up too.
But Jeff, I actually sit here and watched him personally say, when him and Ted Cruz were going at it, he said, and then Ted Cruz comes up with some war in the West with the ranches. What war in the West with the ranches, he said. And I'm going to vote for Trump. But that just alarmed me that he said that, because it showed me that he's not, and Ted Cruz was on the subject.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think that I don't think there's as much depth of knowledge or character in some cases.
Well,
and, we can argue that.
I have to say that Trump changed his tune. Trump was out to lunch and thought that the Fed should continue to control the land in the West. And when his son was here in Pahrump, which is over in Nye County, they gave him a real talking to and a whole stack of stuff. And he said, I'll make sure that my father gets this. And so I think he's changed his tune a little bit. The one thing I like about Trump, and I don't like, I wonder if he's just a Trojan horse. I really do. I don't.
Yep.
I worry about it, but he is an executive that takes in an enormous amount of information in a short amount of time and is able to change course very quickly. So the fact that he has it wrong at one point doesn't say to me that he's going to have it wrong forever, if to give him the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, he is willing to reassess.
Yeah, and actually, what Denny Lenore and I were talking about, Congressman Daines, VA rep there yesterday, is that what other hope does anybody out west have? What other hope do we have?
Yeah, exactly. It ain't Hillary. It ain't Hillary.
No, it's not
and
that.
And the answer is not over the next 4 year another string of dead ranchers.
No.
It's not. That's not acceptable in America.
Unacceptable.
No.
And here's it was Congressman Stockton, Jeff.
Okay.
That wrote the letter, and I brought it up here. Let me see if I'm on a computer I don't usually use, so you'll just have to excuse me for not knowing what I'm doing here. And but it was an excellent letter, and I'm opening it right now, and I just found it. Where the heck did it go? Okay, let me find it again. Maybe it wouldn't open. It was a PDF or something. That's probably why I PDF'd it probably. Okay, let me just see if I got it again. Stockman letter, BLM. Let's see if it'll bring it up. Okay, it's gonna do. No, it's not. It's not letting me open it. I'm sorry, I don't know this computer well enough. Look up the Stockman letter, BLM, Stockman BLM letter, and I'm sure it'll come up online for you. But he was completely against the BLM, and you might want to contact him. I don't know, where he's at in politics these days, and get him on your side. Sounds like he's already on your side. So Billy, the rancher in Idaho, and their name is escaping me. I want to say Paredes, but I'm not sure. And maybe Yates, that was shot when he was trying to put his bull down that had been out on the street and was shot, and his wife had a heart attack. You know the case I'm talking about?
I had a friend telling me about that a couple of weeks ago, and that's the only time I've heard about it. But yeah, it did happen, I guess, according to that friend of mine. He said that he knows it to be true.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
But you have to explain to the audience, Patricia, that he had to have a weapon in his hand if he was going to dispatch the bull. And when he called the cops and told him he was going to be out doing that, and the cops showed up, seen him armed, and shot and killed him.
I know it was absolutely ridiculous. And then they put the guy on leave or something. And I'd like to know what's going on in that case. Where
did this happen? Where did this happen?
In Idaho.
Right here in North
Idaho.
Right here in North Idaho. Yeah, in northern Idaho, Jeff, and I'm only 17 miles from the Idaho border, right at my house.
So this had to be like a sheriff. So was it police? Was it a PD or sheriff?
County deputies.
County deputies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, up here we have the.
I don't have a lot of good news on my show. It's just horrible. It's horrible.
Wow. No, but you're getting the news out there though, and that's what's kept us down, concealing the bad news so that nobody knows what's happening. You're getting it out there, Patricia. It's tough love. You got to hear it before we can effectively change.
Well, I think that's it, and I feel really bad for that family that because right after that is when Oregon started, and so their plight has been eclipsed by everything else that's going on, and it's kind of like this full spectrum dominance that they've got going everywhere. Just how much how much focus can people put on any one issue? It can be your situation, Billy, is a full-time job. What you're dealing with in Texas, Jeff, is a full-time job. How can people follow all this? It's overwhelming.
It is.
I'll let you answer that, Jeff.
Well, I can't. Every time I turn around, there's something. I mean, if you just take the past 2 weeks, the news stories that have hit us, one after the other, and each one has removed the other one because it's scale up in importance. I mean, no one's even talking about Hillary anymore. And And that was huge. And that's treason. And it was removed within hours because of some other stories. So it was Turkey that went off at that point, wasn't it? Or some other event?
Turkey.
Oh, another wag the dog. It's just diversion after diversion to keep you.
Yep.
Just last week's hearing in Congress where they interrogated Loretta Lynch. I mean, oh my God, she didn't have yes or no in her vocabulary. It was nothing but evasion the entire time. That passes for a congressional investigation?
Yeah,
I would have fired her immediately.
The guy asked her, one of the congressmen asked her, said, if I was doing 65 and a 55, would that be breaking the law? And it became a matter of circumstance.
Oh.
Yeah.
You remember? I don't know if
like
that
who
was
you
amazing.
Are.
Yeah. It all goes back to how you define is.
Yeah, brazen insolence, Clinton style.
Yep.
The Clintonistas, they're all in on it. Well, I found that letter and I put it in the chat room. It's westernjournalism.com / Congressman Penn's letter, Obama blasting lawlessness. I think you can just look up Congressman Stockman, BLM, Bundy Ranch, and it'll come right up. But he blasted the Obama administration and saying just how out of read it was. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they're getting away with here. So, yes, go ahead, Billy.
Do you have time for me to make an observation?
Absolutely. You know what? And I'm going to give you time. I'm going to make an observation that people are listening to Sacred Cow Barbecue on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. We are listener and volunteer supported, and so we appreciate your support by buying products that we have at freedomslips.com, and also at buying the archives or just making a donation. So we appreciate that. So Billy, back to you. I'm talking with Billy Hill tonight and Jeff Staggs from Texas, Billy Hill from Montana. And what's your observation? What's your observation, Billy?
My observation is that I sit here tonight in front of the TV watching that Republican Party National Convention, and I heard Donald Trump say, I'm going to run as the law and order candidate. And my observation was that as much as attention as he's going to have to apply to ISIS, he's going to have to put just as much attention in reining in this law out here. And I don't see where the Forest Service gets the law from the local sheriff to be putting badge and gun on a guy that I just don't understand that. But anyway, that bunch of people out here running around with guns and badges harassing the general people and getting in gunfights with ranchers, that has to stop. He has to pay attention to this and stop that. There's people out here, a lot of people, that are getting afraid of the government right now. I mean, literally for their lives.
Well,
that was my observation.
Well, I'd like to say they're being paranoid, but they are not. That is the true, inaccurate perception of what's going on in America.
Well, I have an observation based on Billy's.
Okay, let's have it, Jeff.
Well, I was listening to him. For some reason, Don Knotts came across my mental screen.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I just don't know how much law and order we're going to get out of Trumpy here. Well, we'll see. Maybe. I actually don't think he'll get elected. I think Hillary's going to steal it. I think there's things going on that'll catch him off guard. I don't think they understand how big her system is. I'd love to see him get elected over her. Do not get me wrong. And I don't think that Trump was our best candidate, but between the two, there's not much of a choice for me who I'll vote for. But I really don't think people understand just exactly how ingrained the Clinton system is and how much this election is already over.
The Clinton Foundation has blood. The Clinton Foundation has blood on its hands, no doubt about it, and the powers behind that. This is not just Americans against Americans. This is a whole worldwide cartel that is come down through the UN. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. Someone said, Zippy, I don't know what you mean. He's saying, don't forget your contact info. I don't know what he means by that. So Listen, I want to let everyone know that you've got to see Billy Hill's videos, and you can just go to YouTube and just look up Billy Hill versus the bear. The bear is in quotation marks, and then you'll see the rest of the videos that have been uploaded. I encourage you to watch the one of his mother. You will understand Billy Hill's integrity and character when you see who the woman was that raised him. You have quite a heritage there, Billy.
She was quite a firebrand. I mean, her and chauvinism were in a dead confrontation quite often, and she won quite often. That she would meet in government. It was something.
I'm not a woman's libber at all. I'm not a feminist in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, you do what you got to do. You live the life you have to live, and your mother lived the life that she had to live. She never asked anybody to help her do her job because she was a woman. She never ever did that one time that I ever remembered. But about this, that site on YouTube, everybody keep in mind, we're just getting started. We're just telling about the grizzly bear case and substantiating it right at the moment. We're going to move on to other incidents where they shot my cattle. The government was telling my neighbors that they were legal to shoot the cows if they came on their property, whether it was fenced or it wasn't. This is in an open range country. They burned out my camp and then charged me rates for the camp when I couldn't use it, and then gave me an unacceptable performance evaluation for that year because I wouldn't pay because I didn't use it. And then they used that as on the 3 strikes to eliminate my 33-year business of outfitting. I mean, all of this is coming. We're building it. It takes time. Please have patience, but keep coming back. And every day you come back, this site will update and be more interesting. Well, we'll have you keep coming back here, Billy. No doubt about it. And Jeff, I'd like to have a report. I'd like to have a report after September 3rd, and let us know. Is that a Saturday, by the way?
That is a Saturday.
Okay. All right.
First Saturday in September.
Okay. So what can we do to help you further? People need to contact you. They can contact you through T, like in T as in Tango, the numeral 2, P as in Papa, -3.com. They can, if they'll go to that website, they can check that out, and you'll give them the details of what they need to do to come to Austin on September 3rd to have a rally with you folks. Hopefully, we need to put this federal behemoth back in its 10 square mile box.
That's a fact.
I mean, it's just way out of control. Billy?
It's got to be.
I agree, Patricia.
Yep.
I agree there, Jeff. What I would.
It can't be 500 people. It can't be 300. It's got to be a lot of people.
And so you don't mind if people from outside Texas come?
Hey, we'll let people from Oklahoma cross the Red River if they have to.
Okay, all right.
Louisiana can sneak across the border.
I know how you.
New Mexico's a long way away.
I know how you Texans are. I've seen a Texans map of the world. I really have. I understand how you folks think. But
let's track them back out of the state, but they can come over for the rally, okay?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We got to join forces here. And so, Billy, what can people do? What can people do to support you? Just keep sharing your videos.
Yes, and the one thing that I'm looking for is the answer to this. I run for sheriff campaign a time or two. And it seems to me like the only way you're effective is if you reached out to your darkest corners of your area and bring in all your information, centralize it, evaluate it, and then dispense it in the most effective way. And I would like to see the affected ranchers and landowners out here in the West have a central pool that they could send their information and their story to, and we would build a site and have everybody's story on that site for anybody in the nation to look at what's going on out here in one spot.
Well, you know what I can do with that, Billy? That is a great idea, and I can actually market that as appetite suppressant, because everybody wants to lose weight, and all they have to do is read that site, and they wouldn't be able to eat for a week. They'd be so disgusted.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I know sometimes I can't eat because...
Go ahead, Billy.
Good, Jeff.
I was going to say, would you guys let a couple of Texas farmers have something to say on there?
Yeah, I bet you
absolutely.
I bet you would.
You're an American. You're totally free to put it up there. If it's a government overreach, government assault on your ownership or your management of your property, I'd say that needs to be heard, and we need to create a site where this can all come in, be evaluated, and posted. It will build our case when we.
We've got 172 ranchers that BLM's attacking in Texas. That there's stories that I could forward to you in video format already.
That's excellent. See, Jeff, what I'm thinking is if we ever accomplish getting a committee of Congress over Department of Agriculture to hold some investigations, they're going to ask the people that are gathering this data and have this data to come to Washington and present it in oral testimony, and they're going to review this. If we can just get this investigation and get there, I think that we can back off the government, because Congress has the authority to reel them in a little bit and make them stand down on their activities, if they will just do it.
If they would just grow a backbone.
Yep.
But these people are under the same threat, though. I mean, we've had congressmen killed in plane crashes. They've been caught doing other things, and it's just terrible how they compromise people to make them ineffective. And so that's why that's why they're so weak and inefficient.
But that's why I want to have this one site with all this information, with several different people running the site. No one person they can get a beat on.
Right. Well,
it'll kind of create a kind of. Yeah. Go ahead.
I agree, Billy, because what happens? But they're doing it in such a broad way now, and then they leave some other ranches alone. The other ranches think, well, what'd he do? Some people actually think that the Bundys were wrong, and I go, wow, I disagree. I disagree how they're handling their case right now. I disagree with that, but I don't see that they were wrong. And I think this is going to come back. I want to plug L.B. Bork's book here tonight. Go to theredamendment.com. I think there's a big answer in there if we would correct our status and be state citizens again, to state nationals, and stop being in the federal jurisdiction and letting them mow us down like this. It takes work and it takes a commitment, but I think this is one of the things that we can do to take back our states and take back our country.
Well, one thing I'd like to leave you with is when our founding fathers created the Constitution for the United States of America, they did it with a definite desire to limit the power of government. But when Congress gave the Forest Service, BLM, and EPA, all these agencies, regulatory power, they gave them unlimited power.
Big mistake. Well, I hear the music, Billy. Billy Hill, thank you so much. All the best. Be safe. Jeff Staggs, thank you so much. We'll do this more often, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Signing out.
Thank you, Patricia. Bye now.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.